Sandra's story begins like the tale of a perfect daughter, the kind of girl every parent prays to have and every church member admires. At only 19 years old, she seemed too pure for this world, like a flower that had never touched dust. People said her smile could brighten even the darkest room, and her voice was soft and refreshing, like cool water falling from the sky on a hot day. Every Sunday in church, when Sandra lifted her voice in worship, the whole building became silent. Children who loved to play suddenly stopped. Adults who had come with heavy hearts found themselves shedding tears. Her eyes would be closed, her hands lifted high toward heaven, and her voice would carry such sincerity that people felt God himself must be listening closely. Some cried loudly, others wept quietly, but no one remained unmoved. Even Mama Rashinia, an old woman known in the church for her stony heart, once whispered in awe, "This girl is not ordinary." Sandra's lifestyle reflected the purity of her heart. She never wore makeup or flashy clothes. Her long skirts swept the ground like those of a queen walking humbly. Her hair was always neatly covered. She never raised her voice, never spoke rudely, never joined in careless jokes about boys. While others giggled and gossiped, Sandra only smiled gently and looked away. Her father, Pastor Paul Adams, was the leader of the church. He was proud beyond words. From the pulpit he would often say, "Look at my daughter. Proof that God still makes perfect girls." The congregation clapped and nodded in agreement. Old women prayed that their daughters would grow to be like Sandra, while men admired her and said, "The man who marries that girl will know peace." Sandra's spirituality was genuine. She read her Bible as if it was her personal diary. She didn't just memorize verses, she understood them deeply. When her mother once fell sick, Sandra didn't run to buy medicine. She simply knelt beside her and prayed, "Oh God, heal my mother." By morning, her mother was strong again. That incident strengthened the church's belief that Sandra was heaven-sent, a golden child, a dove among crows. But as the saying goes, every bright moon has a dark side. Sandra's life looked perfect, but there was a weakness hidden deep inside, waiting for the right moment to come out. When Sandra gained admission to the university, it was like a festival for the church. The congregation danced and sang her. Parents showered her with gifts, new clothes, a gas cooker, a Bible with golden edges, and even a new phone. On the day she left, Pastor Paul prayed long and hard, laying his hands on her head. "Go and shine for God," he declared proudly. Sandra's eyes burned with determination as she packed her bags, filling them with her Bible, prayer notes, and faith to the university. Sandra was assigned to a hostel with 3 other girls: Doris, Amanda, and Lola. They were completely different from her. They wore short dresses, painted their faces, and lived loud, carefree lives. They returned late at night with fried rice, chicken, and drinks. Sandra, in contrast, kept her corner neat and pasted Bible verses above her bed. She prayed every night, knelt in worship, and listened to gospel songs. Her roommates mocked her. "Holy Mary has started again," Doris would sneer. Amanda teased, "One day she'll join us." Lola laughed and clapped sarcastically, but Sandra never wavered. She replied calmly, "This life won't last. God is watching." Her conviction seemed unshakable. Everything was fine, until money ran out. Weeks into her stay at the university, Sandra checked her bank account and found only 50 kobo left. She called her father, but there was no answer. She called again, still nothing. Finally, her mother sent a brief message, "My dear, things are tight now. We will send money as soon as we can. Please manage." Sandra's heart sank. Her food supply was nearly finished. She had only a small cup of rice and half a sachet of salt left. That evening, she cooked the rice, ate slowly, and whispered to herself, "God will provide." Meanwhile, her roommates feasted on suya, fried rice, and drinks, laughing loudly while the smell of their food filled the room. Sandra pressed her wrapper against her chest, hungry but unwilling to complain. She borrowed money from a friend, Grace, and managed for a short while. But soon, that too finished. Hunger became her silent companion. She cried quietly at night, her pillow wet with tears. Still, she refused to call home again. She didn't want to worry her parents. Instead, she prayed for God to open a door, but instead of a heavenly door, temptation walked in. One evening, Doris tossed a glittering gold dress on Sandra's bed. "Wear it," she urged. "Just one night. You'll eat. You'll laugh. Nobody will touch you. Just look pretty." Sandra shook her head. No, I'm not like that. Doris shrugged and left with the others. But after they were gone, Sandra sat staring at the dress. Her stomach growled, her phone was dead, and she had no pad, only tissue folded inside her clothes. The dress sparkled at her like a devil's invitation. Finally, she whispered, only this once. That night, Doris returned to fetch her lipstick, and caught Sandra holding the dress. She grinned knowingly. Soon Amanda and Lola helped transform Sandra with makeup and perfume. When Sandra looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Gone was Pastor Paul's daughter. Instead, a stranger with red lips and glowing skin stared back. They went out together in a black car, heading to a club. Sandra was quiet, nervous, clutching her purse. The club was noisy and full of smoke, laughter, and music. Doris introduced her to a wealthy man named Philip, who seemed too experienced with girls like her. He charmed her with food, drinks, and attention. Eventually, he led her to a hotel room, where Sandra felt trapped. Her phone was dead, she had no money for transport, and there was no escape. That night, she gave in. The next morning, she washed her face, wore her long church dress, and went to class as if nothing had happened. Her roommates smiled knowingly. She's one of us now, Doris said. And she was. From that day, Sandra lived a double life. In the daytime, she remained the church girl, long skirts, Bible in hand, powerful prayers, respected by the fellowship. At night, she transformed into another person. Red lipstick, short dresses, wigs in many colors, expensive perfume, and an alluring walk. She began to enjoy the attention, the freedom, and especially the money. Her parents noticed nothing. When she came home during holidays, she played her role perfectly. She wore long skirts, tied her hair in a bun, prayed louder than anyone, and led Bible classes for children. Her father proudly said, "This girl is going straight to heaven." Her mother whispered, "You're even better than I was at your age." Nobody suspected anything, but back on campus, Sandra was addicted to the nightlife. Men showered her with gifts, phones, dollars, clothes, and trips. She stopped depending on her parents financially. Whenever they asked, "Are you fine?" she replied, "Yes, God is good." They believed her. After graduation, Sandra returned home. Her father declared that she would now work full-time in the ministry. Outwardly, she agreed. But secretly, she continued sneaking out at night. Soon, even men from within the church, Brother Felix, Elder Daniel, and Pastor Jerry, fell into her web. They gave her money and gifts, hiding their sins under the cover of prayer. Sandra's mother and father saw nothing. They only saw their perfect daughter serving God. But Sandra could not deceive God, and eventually, her secret caught up with her. One morning, she woke up nauseous. Days passed, her clothes no longer fit, and her belly began to swell. Her mother discovered a pregnancy test hidden under Sandra's mattress. With trembling lips, Sandra confessed everything: how it began with hunger in school, how she fell into the trap of sin, how men from the church became her secret partners. She admitted she didn't even know who the father of her child was. Her mother wept bitterly but begged Sandra not to tell her father yet. Together, they tried to hide the pregnancy with large gowns. But secrets never stay hidden forever. During a Sunday service, while leading worship, Sandra collapsed. As people rushed to help her, her gown lifted slightly, revealing her rounded belly. The congregation gasped in shock. Whispers spread like wildfire: "The pastor's daughter is pregnant." That evening, a church meeting was held. Sandra sat in shame as her father asked, "Is it true?" With trembling lips, she said yes. When asked who was responsible, she shocked everyone by saying she didn't know. Then she began listing names: respected elders, married men, even pastors. Chaos broke out. Families cried, men walked out in shame, and Pastor Paul collapsed in grief. The girl once seen as the light of the church had become its deepest disgrace. Her parents could no longer hold their heads high. The congregation shunned her, and her father could barely preach again. Sandra stayed home, her curtains drawn, drowning in shame and guilt.